It's hot, it's summertime, but that means tomatoes are here, and we have another great tomato dish for you today. Come on with us and let's make a tomato pie. Hi, I'm Mary Katherine, and welcome to my table. I'm so glad you're with me today. This is such a delicious dish that we love here in the South, and I know that you're going to love it too if you give it a try. We're going to make a tomato pie, and we're going to start with a pie crust. Now, you can use a pre-made pie crust that you purchase at the store if you want to. I have homemade pie crust, and I have put this in a recipe before where I show you how to make it and then how you can either keep it in the fridge for just a few days, or you can store it in your freezer for a longer period of time. It'll last about 3 months in your freezer. So I'm taking one of my frozen pie crusts out, let it thaw. It's still chilled though. I had it in my refrigerator. And then we're just going to take it out. I keep it in a disc, kind of this shaped disc, and I just wrap it in the saran wrap, and then I store it in freezer bags. But to use it, we're going to take it out, and we're going to put a little bit of flour on our surface, and then a little more flour on top of it, and make sure that surface underneath is still coated well once you do all of this. Then we'll take our rolling pin, put a little bit of flour on it as well, keep it from sticking, and then you just start rolling it out. And we're going to make it into as much of a circle shape as we can. You know, it's funny, growing up, we did so many things with tomatoes, but I had never heard of tomato pie until I was grown up. And then when I tried it, I was like, whoo, that's delicious. And so that's what we're going to make today. Okay, that's probably a good enough size for our pie plate. Okay, and so now an easy way to get it in your pie plate is just lift it up off your surface. And I kind of do it in half. If you've gotten it real thin and it's more delicate, you can even fold it in one more time to have it kind of over in fourths. But if I just do it like this, and then bring it over my pie plate to about the right size and about the right placement. And then, I know some people cut off the edges. I'm just going to kind of turn them up underneath. Just kind of even them up a little bit on the edges. And then I'm just going to take my fingers like this. You see 2 fingers on one and one on the other. And this is still going to make a pretty edge. So we are putting a little bit of effort into it today. And there. See, you've got a pretty nice, I'm going to go back to this one spot with a little more flour. See if I can help it a little bit. There we go. So we do have a pretty crimped edge. For a tomato pie, the tomatoes are so juicy, so we want to blind bake our pie crust so that it gets partially baked before we even put the tomatoes in it. I'm just going to take a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to just set it down in the pie crust. And then I have some dried beans. You can use some other things for it if you want, but you basically just want something to weigh down the paper and keep the pie crust weighed down so that it won't puff up as it bakes. And then I use my beans for this, and then I just put them back in the bag, and I've got them to use again the next time too. I've got my oven preheated to 350, and we're going to put this in and bake it now. Okay, I'm going to check it in about 10 minutes because I don't want it to get all the way crispy yet. So I'm going to check it in 10. I'm thinking 10 or 15 minutes it'll be ready. Okay, so while our pie crust is baking, I'm going to get our tomatoes ready. These are already washed, and so I'm just going to take that little core out, and then I'm going to peel them. And then tomatoes are so juicy, and so when we bake them in a pie, we don't want all of that juice to be in there and make our pie crust soggy. That's partly why we're blind baking it first, but it's also why we're going to do this next step. We're going to peel them, slice them, and then we're going to salt them and put them in this colander. And if you notice, I've got a bowl sitting under the colander, And that's going to catch those juices. And that salt that we put on each slice is going to kind of make those juices release even more. So we're going to get some of that juice out of the tomatoes first before we layer them in our pie crust. And I'm going to get several slices out of each tomato. Maybe 4 or 5 from each one. Okay, and so I'm going to take them and I'm just going to kind of layer them around like that. And I'm going to take our salt and I'm going to go ahead and salt and make sure it covers each one of those slices. And then that juice will just start coming through that colander into that bowl. Now I'm going to do the other one. Now for a tomato pie, depends on how big your tomatoes are. I have 2 really large tomatoes today. And I have an extra slice or 2 in my fridge I may use as well. We'll see how much it fills up the pie crust. If you have smaller tomatoes, you'll want to use 3 or 4 tomatoes. But these are pretty large, so I'm thinking these 2, along with that extra slice or so, is probably going to be enough. Okay. I'm just going to layer these in here. And I'll salt it again. Just about like that. All right, our pie crust is almost ready. Let it go for just a few more minutes. I set it for about 4 more minutes, and I think it'll be good then. So we're going to go ahead and put together this creamy mixture that goes on the filling for our pie crust. We're going to use 2 kinds of cheeses today. We're going to use cheddar cheese and mozzarella. I have sharp cheddar, and you can use whichever kind you like. If you don't want it to be sharp, that's fine, but it's really good in it. We're going to start with some sour cream, and we use about 1/2 cup of that. And these measurements, they'd be pretty close, but they don't have to be just exact for this. It's very forgiving. And then we want just about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. And I'm just going to eyeball that. It's probably a couple right there, a little bit more maybe. Okay. And then we want 1 cup of each of the cheeses. So I'm going to do about 1 cup of the mozzarella and about 1 cup of the sharp cheddar. Okay. There's our mozzarella. Okay. There we go. And then the only other thing you want is a little salt and pepper. Now, we did salt the tomatoes, so I'm going to keep that in mind as I put salt and pepper in here. You just do it to taste. I'm not going to do too much since we already have put a little salt on the tomatoes. And then we're just going to kind of mix all of this up. And that's it. That will be ready to bake then. Okay, and I'm just going to lift this up just from the different edges. Just get it out of here. Now you notice it's not quite baked all the way, but it is partially baked, and that's about the way that I want it. So I'm going to take it there. And one other thing that I'm going to do, just to kind of help prepare these tomatoes for this crust, even though you will see some of the juice has already gone down in the bowl, I'm going to take each slice and I'm going to kind of pat it dry in between some paper towels as I layer it down in the crust. And that's going to help it not be too soggy as well. Do 2 or 3 at a time so our pie can bake just perfect. And here's the last 2. I think this is going to be enough. This is going to be enough for this tomato pie. We will just take this creamy mixture, and I'm just going to kind of dollop it around different areas just to make it easier to spread over the whole pie. Now you'll notice that our pie crust did not stay very pretty, and that's okay. This is just for us tonight, and I wasn't worried about that. But let me tell you how to make it stay really pretty around the edge if you're going for that look. What you want to do after you roll out your pie crust, you want to put it back in the refrigerator to chill. and let it chill really good for 10-20 minutes probably. Once it gets good and chilled, then you want to put it in an oven that's even hotter than what we did. We only did that at 350 degrees. You probably want to pop it into at least a 400-degree oven. And even if you don't want to bake your pie or your crust at that high temperature the whole time, if you'll do it for just the first few minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, that will cook it quickly enough that helps it come from the chilled fridge to the really hot oven, and it will hold its shape better. So if you want to make a really pretty edge and have it stay looking really pretty, that's what you need to do. Now, we're going to take our tomato pie. We're going to put it back in the oven. It's going to bake for about 30 minutes. Okay, let's take it out of the oven. Ooh, doesn't that look good? I'm going to take it over here. It did take right at 30 minutes. And let me tell you, I do bump the temperature up to about 365 just for the final few minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just to get that little brown crustiness on the cheese that's in our tomato pie. And then the last thing that I do after I take it out of the oven, I have some fresh basil, and I just kind of sprinkle it around. You get a really good flavor with that mixed with our tomato pie. Doesn't that look pretty? Woo! And we have got some other fresh vegetables right now. We've got some corn that I just did yesterday that is delicious. So we're going to have some corn, and then I just fried up some okra fresh right now while the tomato pie was in the oven. So that's going to be our supper tonight. We don't even have any meat with this supper. I don't know if you ever do that in the summertime when those fresh vegetables are coming in. Just have a good old vegetable meal. That's what we're doing tonight here at our house. Let's cut into our tomato pie. Mmm. Make sure it slices all the way through. Okay. Let me get my pie server. Look at that. See that hot, steamy, cheesy goodness with that tomato and that basil. Doesn't that make your mouth water? All right, let's put our other things on our plate too. Here's a little corn. And let's get a little okra. And I do have okra in another one of my videos, and so you'll need to go check that out if you want to see how I fry my okra. And then I'm having a corn video that's going to come out soon. It's going to show you the whole process of how I put up corn when it comes in the summer. So anyway, all right, let's taste the tomato pie. It's pretty hot. See if I can blow it for a second. Y'all don't tell me if I have any cheese hanging down from my mouth, okay? That's good. It's really yummy. I hope you'll give it a try today. Let's give that okra a taste. I'm just going to grab one. Yep, I love that too. I love meals like this. This is great food in the summertime, or any time of the year, really, but especially when they're fresh. Thank you so much for joining me today at Mary Katherine's Table. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We sure have enjoyed this recipe, and I know we're going to enjoy it too. So I hope you'll try this tomato pie today. If you like this content, I hope you'll subscribe. We're coming out with new things all the time. And remember, go out today and find someone who needs a little bit of kindness and give them some of yours.